Alien abductions are something people have claimed to go through for a long time. Every year, all around the globe, there are people who claim they have been abducted by aliens. Of course, there are some who are trying rather hard to get the attention, so they make it all up. But some of the stories sure sound extremely interesting and mysterious. Apparently, there are also people who do not speak much of the abductions. They are not well known. They do not like the publicity of any kind, and they prefer not being called crazy. Do you believe in alien abductions? Aliens have been one of the most popular topics out there for a long time. Even our ancestors have believed in the gods coming from above. Were these really gods? Or is there a possibility aliens have been visiting us for quite a while now? When speaking about alien abductions, the main question in our heads is probably, why do they do it? Is it for the researching purposes? Maybe something related to our genes, bodies that the aliens might find interesting? Most of the people who had been abducted claim to have issues sleeping and insane anxiety that sometimes turns to be unbearable. Hypnosis is often the way to reveal the whole truth behind this strange occurrence. No matter the reason behind alien abductions, they do not seem to be very relaxing or positive at all. Many people suffered after them, and some even had mental issues afterward. Here are some of the alien abduction stories told by people who claim that they have actually gone through the whole process. The abduction of multiple people at a barbecue. Barbecues are supposed to be fun and relaxing, but for Debbie and Mike, Steve and Annie, it turned out to be one of the most memorable moments of their lives. It was summer evening in '95. The group of friends was at a Derbyshire house, having a barbecue and drinking. The evening seemed to be quite ordinary, nothing special until a bizarre thing happened around 10:30 p.m. All of a sudden, a very unusual disc-shaped spacecraft flew above their heads. Shocked, the group of friends stared at the object for several minutes before all four of them actually began to feel rather nauseous. Soon afterward, the UFO quickly vanished. Steve ran towards the barbecue, and the sight had been shocking. The meat completely burnt to a crisp. There was nothing but grey ash. Strangely, the fire was just moments ago completely fine, and the meat had just been placed on the barbecue. Confused, Steve checked out his watch and ended up completely stunned. The whole event took a lot more than several minutes. His watch showed it was already well after midnight, meaning over 90 minutes actually passed. Shocked by the entire situation, they decided to leave and go to their homes. Over the next days, all of them began to feel rather bad. They had trouble sleeping, insane anxiety and tiredness. All four of them agreed to be hypnotically regressed. All of them said the same story. According to their story, all of them were taken on board the spacecraft. There was a medical room, and each one of them had been placed on tables for the purposes of examination. Debbie describes the walls to be round but divided into squares. Steve said he saw various figures and drawings on the walls. Some of them were the planets from our solar system. Young mother abducted by the pyramid builders. A young mother of 2 children from Yorkshire, Sharon, was a woman who had been experiencing very unusual events for a while. She had been missing some memories, time, and had strange marks on her body. One afternoon, Sharon was listening to the alien abduction stories on the radio, and she decided she should seek for help. She was not very interested in UFOs at all. She was a completely normal woman with lots of strange things that had been happening to her throughout her life. According to her story, she was taking aboard a spacecraft too. Various intense and invasive medical experiments were done on her. But to make it even more bizarre, she recalls being with other abductees on a ramp waiting for transportation to somewhere else. One of her most bone-shaking claims is the abduction she had gone through as a teenager. Apparently, Sharon was hiding from her parents, smoking in the garden so no one can see her. As she was smoking her cigarette, a spacecraft appeared, lifted her off the ground and took her aboard. Sharon describes this ship to be full of Egyptian writings. She claims other people and her were told that they have to respect the earth and not pollute it. She also says she had been told that we need to learn about pyramids and that her captors actually claimed to put the pyramids where they are now. The alleyway abduction of Carol and Helen Thomas. On March 30th, 1988, Helen and her mother Carol Thomas set off to their work at the nearby mill. As always, they used the same path, walked through the city housing estates and back alleyways. It was an ordinary morning, but strangely, both of them heard a rather low humming sound right above their heads. All of the sudden, the intense bright lights got them completely blind. As soon as the lights disappeared, they came to their senses, feeling a little bit dizzy and nauseous. Strangely, Helen's jacket was soaking wet, even though the ground around them was completely dry. Both extremely confused, they continued to walk towards their workplace. At their arrival, the security guard told them that they were a couple of hours late. Over the next days, their skin was full of rashes and they had a constant feeling of anxiety. It took them several years to make a contact with leading UFO researcher Tony Dodd. He agreed to actually conduct interviews with both of the women under hypnosis. According to their story, each of them was taken into a massive bright room. They were laid on the tables, and the creatures with large dark eyes and large heads performed very strange experiments on them. They took the eggs from their bodies through a rather thin tube that had been inserted into their bellies. Helen and Carol claim that everything was extremely wet to touch, and apparently one of the aliens actually seemed to like Helen's jacket. He was rubbing the material across his face and all over his hands. They both believe this is what made her jacket soaking wet. The former policeman and the Ilkley Moor incident. It was morning, December 1st, 1987. It was around 7 a.m. Philip Spencer, known to be a former policeman, set off from his home located in Ilkley to his father-in-law's house. Driving along a rather quiet road, he heard sounds similar to the low-flying helicopter. Looking around, he did not see anything unusual in the sky at all. Strangely, after looking around a little bit better, he noticed a small creature standing on the hillside located next to the road. Philip decided to stop his car and walk towards the mysterious creature who seemed to be staring at him. He managed to take a picture of it before it completely disappeared. He walked up the hill where the creature previously stood, and just then he noticed a huge silver disc that was already in the process of shooting into the sky. Returning to his car, shocked and completely lost, Philip decided to return home. After his arrival, he realized it was already 10 a.m., which means Philip literally lost over 2 hours of his time without noticing at all. The next following days were terrible. He had vivid and very intense dreams. Not knowing how to deal with it, he turned to hypnosis as well. The hypnosis revealed he stood underneath the silver disc, and suddenly he had been lifted from the ground and taken aboard. Philip found himself in a large medical room on a table. He somehow remembers a voice that kept on telling him not to be afraid. The next thing he remembers is seeing the alien craft moving up and very far away from him. The photograph Philip took was proven to be completely authentic and not tampered at all. A strange family abduction. It was October 1974. John Day, his wife and children were returning home to Essex. John Day was not one of the people who had believed in UFOs or aliens at all. Sadly, the following encounter changed his mind forever. The whole journey to their home is supposed to take half an hour, which means they would need to be home by 9:45 p.m. Thinking they actually arrived on time, they left the car and prepared their children for bed. Soon, John checked out his watch. It was almost 1 a.m. This means their journey took a lot longer than it had been expected. The next following days were terrifying for all of the family members. They were experiencing insanely scary nightmares, so intense that they came to the point where they are afraid to even try to sleep. Aside from sleeping issues, John and his wife Susan were experiencing anxiety and extreme confusion. Thanks to the advice of a local UFO report group, John finally contacted Leonard Wilder, a hypnotist who was already familiar with these kinds of situations. Under hypnosis, John started speaking about driving into a bright mist that fell from the sky. According to his story, the bright light descended into a nearby field, shooting towards the car. As the light reached the car, the whole car had been lifted and taken onto a spaceship. Strangely, John's memories were extremely blurry. He could not describe everything perfectly, but he does remember a metal arm that was swinging over his body, as well as being poked with sharp objects. Sadly, there are no reports that his wife, Susan, and children went to the hypnosis at all. That was 5 credible UFO abductions. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.